Hello everybody and welcome aboard the P-38 Lightning. We're in MSFS today and this will be a new series on the channel mainly focusing on, obviously, warbirds. Any aircraft of that matter really. So you can see here moving the propeller lever full forward, and this basically helps with injecting fuel into the engine and helps with feathering. I'm going to get rid of the yoke here and go ahead and turn on the magnetos. Of course this is a voiceover. This isn't me actually talking in the sim, but I felt like a voiceover would be a lot better. That way you're not hearing my voice with the sound of the engines. This is a little more clear, easier to hear. So, looking around the cockpit now, getting everything set to go. We're going to close the canopy here. Going to bring up the windows. After we bring up the windows, we're going to go ahead and lock the canopy. You'll see those two handles there that I pull, right there and there. And that is basically to lock the canopy and seal it. At this point now, I'm going to attempt an engine start. So I'm going to prime the engine. Takes about 2 seconds. And you'll see here I actually forgot to turn on the battery. I thought the aircraft already had it on because I had heard systems booting up, but I guess not. So I'm going to go there and turn on the battery now. Attempt an engine start again. And you can see it needs to be reprimed. So you'll see in a second, I go back over to the priming switch. And I go ahead and flip it back up again. Engine starts to spin. Failed start. So we're going to go ahead and prime it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and let that go. And it's at this point now I'm realizing I didn't crack the throttle either. So we're going to go ahead and crack the throttles to about 10%. Even around 19 maybe. I can't remember what I did for this flight. It was fairly warm in Greenwood. That's where we're currently situated, Greenwood, Nova Scotia, and that is where we'll be situated for all of our flights. So the main course of this series is going to be warbirds or like post-World War II aircraft that are fairly old, not in service anymore, even stuff like the F-86, maybe the F-4, stuff like that. Just very, very fun, classic aircraft to fly. So we're going to see, I'm going to go ahead and flip the starter now for the engine. And we will go ahead and get that going. There it goes. And the engine should spark to life. There it goes. You can hear that now. And the engine is alive. Repeat the same process for the right engine, and then we'll start our taxi. Just got to turn the magnetos on. I'm struggling a little bit to turn the right magneto on, but we do get it, and then we fire the right engine. Today's flight is basically just going to be flying a pattern, a few loop-de-loops, and that sort. So I hear some tapping in the background. My dog just walked in the room. But yeah, so just resituating my seat now. And we're going to go ahead and fire the right engine, going ahead and turning on the right fuel pump. That'll start providing fuel to the engines. I'm going to go ahead and prime the right engine now. Hold for about 2 to 3 seconds. I normally hold for about 2 seconds. Go ahead and energize the right engine. You'll hear that kick in all the way, and then the spark, and the engine should catch any second now. There it goes, and the engines are caught. Both engines are alive. We're basically ready to taxi. We're going to go ahead and bring the flight stick back now, and we will get going for a taxi. Essentially all we're going to be doing, like I said a minute ago, here we go, removing the parking brake. We're going to ease the throttle forward, looking over the nose a little bit there to make sure I'm clear. We'll ease the throttles forward very gently in a second. Just going to lay those down. So see, I look to my left, and here I'm doing a flight control test, checking the elevator. Elevators look good. Left aileron's got full motion. Right aileron's got full motion. We'll check the rudder now. Rudder has full motion on the right. the left rudder. And rudder has full motion on the left. Flight control systems are good. Engines are running at about 19% throttle, so we know that those aren't going to explode on us. So we're going to go ahead and remove the parking brake now and ease the throttle forward just a little bit. You'll see the aircraft will start rolling forward. Departing from runway 26 today in Greenwood. Winds are nice, so we're going to go ahead, take a left here, right down onto the taxiway. You can see when you bring the throttles to idle in the P-38, it actually does look like the engines are dying out and cutting out, but they're not. They're just at a very low idle power. So you'll notice I was looking at the engines a little bit when I cut the throttle back because I didn't realize the engines were still running. I thought they had shut down. A little fast on the taxi here, so we're going to go ahead and tap the brakes a little bit. You can see there again, the engines look like they're shutting down, and as soon as I give a throttle, they go ahead and spool up again. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it onto the taxiway here now. A little bit fast, but that's okay. No other aircraft at the airbase, sorry. Go ahead and bring it right onto the runway now, and it's basically straightforward from there. I'm going to line it up here, tap the brakes. Looking around to make sure everything ahead of me is clear. Everything looks clear. Checking engine parameters. Okay, ease the throttle forward with the brakes on, brakes coming off. Throttles are at about 96-97%, so that we don't overheat the engine and spew oil all over our wings. Using the rudder and a little bit of the brakes to keep us centered on the runway, and we'll pull back on the stick any second now, just to ease this beauty in the air. Right now, there we go, just very easily at this point now. Brake tap. We'll tap on the brakes, bring the landing gear up. Landing gear light you can see there to the left by the yoke is red, and it just flashed off, which means that the landing gear are up. The light only comes on when the landing gear are going up or down. So if the light is off, your landing gear are either up or down. Just looking around the nose here, keeping the aircraft line straight. We're going to go ahead and brake to the left over the little road here. Checking over our wing now, making sure we're clear of the airbase before we actually start some maneuvers. Going to whip it around now and fly over one of the runways here with a few hangars. We're assuming in this situation we've been cleared to fly unrestricted and quite low. So we're going to go ahead and fly fairly straight here now. Bring it back around just a little bit so that we are on a left base for the runway. And then we're going to bring it in for a low pass. Little history on the P-38. The P-38 was a reconnaissance aircraft using World War II, and about 90% of all World War II aerial footage that you see was taken by P-38s. P-38s, there was over 10,000 built. This specific aircraft that I'm flying here is the Lima variant, in terms of World War II, it was one of the newer variants. As I was saying, the P-38 was an extremely successful aircraft in World War II. Like I said, reconnaissance, here we go, popping. Gonna keep over my shoulder to check our altitude, and then we're going to roll it over. Right now, still looking to make sure I'm not going to collide with anything, and we're going to pull back on the stick just a little bit and bring it in for a low pass. P-38 was also an attack fighter in World War II. It could carry bombs, drop tanks, and it had machine guns, I believe 4 machine guns and 3 cannons in the nose. The P-38 scored, I believe, over 6,000 kills in the Pacific Theater and over 8,000 in the European Theater. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have my sources here, but I know it was definitely a very high number of aircraft that were destroyed by P-38s. Bringing it in for a bringing it in for a low altitude pass over the runway here. Once we get close to the end of the runway at the threshold, we're going to go ahead and pop up, and we'll do the same maneuver that we did when lining up for the runway. So we're going to pop up in a couple of seconds here. I'm going to be looking over my shoulder to make sure I'm good, and then we'll roll it back around. Here we go, popping now. So you can see I'm checking over my shoulders just to make sure the altitude looks good in the aircraft, looking at the altitude and speed indicators, and then we're going to roll it over. Going to give it a little bit of backstick pressure to level out the nose, and we're going to go ahead and roll it over again. A lot of backstick pressure here to avoid colliding with the ground, and we're going to look back a little bit at the airbase. I can see it in my VR headset at the time. Obviously you guys can't see it. There it is. We're looking back at the airbase to see our positioning, and we're going to bring it around for a landing back to runway 26, same as departure. this series on the channel. If you don't like aviation, obviously it's not for you. If you do like aviation, and especially warbirds, such as the Spitfire, P-51, all of that stuff, you are going to love this series. And the fact that it's in VR makes it feel a lot more realistic for me and even the viewers watching. So, as you can see here, we're maintaining an altitude of about 800 feet. I can't exactly read the altitude indicator there. You can see the engine oil temperature gauge, or maybe that is the RPM gauge, I can't read. Looks like RPM gauge is bouncing back and forth, but it should be stable. And our slip is straight forward, which means we are flying straight forward. We don't need any rudder correction as of right now. Winds are calm, gusting 4 knots, so it's a beautiful day to fly. You'll see we continue straight for a little bit here, just to give us some space to put down our landing gear and flaps and everything. It is a flaps full landing, because we're fairly heavy. Got about half tank fuel. So we're going to pull the nose up here a little bit to get some altitude. Got about half fuel in the aircraft. I can't remember how many liters exactly. Don't have the information from when I started the flight. But we are fairly heavy, so we are going to be using full flaps for landing. We'll see in a minute here. Just going to pull it out to the right a little bit. In a minute here, I'm going to bring it around to the left. And then, here we go. Pull the nose up just a little bit, and bring it around to the left, and we're going to start turning for a final into runway 26 at Greenwood. So at this point now, we're bringing flaps full. We have the runway in sight. Landing gear coming down. Keeping an eye on that light. Monitoring the engine RPMs. Obviously, I could see it in my VR headset, but you guys can't. But the red light has gone out, which means our landing gear are down. If not all of the landing gear came down, or if the landing gear was stuck halfway down, the light would stay on as if the landing gear was still in motion, and that's kind of what tells us, hey, this is potentially dangerous, you need to get this checked out. And then they would do a flyby of the airbase, check the landing gear, and figure everything out from there. Looking over the nose here, you can see 2 of those machine guns in the nose. All of the machine guns and cannons of the P-38 were stored in the nose cone, and some variants even had a glass nose for cameras, I believe. A little bit low, but that's okay. We're going to try and hold this altitude or climb just a little bit, peeking around the sides just to make sure we're nice and lined up. The P-38 has a very nice, fairly open canopy, so it's nice, and you get a lot of views, or get a lot of options for views when you're looking over the nose if you don't have your HUD in. This specific P-38 that I was flying in this video is under the livery of the Flying Dutchman, and obviously the HUD was removed for this demonstration, just to make it easier to taxi and land. The P-38 lands very well, so you'll notice here I land a little late at the touchdown zone, but that's not a big problem because the P-38 also slows down very quickly, and it was a very smooth landing, which obviously in a situation like this would be fairly crucial. Obviously in World War II, wouldn't always be landing on a paved airfield, it sometimes would be dirt or grass, so but we have a paved airfield at our disposal, so we're just going to pull the nose up a little bit and set the plane down. There we go. Give it a bit of forward stick pressure to keep that nose on the ground, and the stick has come back to neutral. Looking over my left now to find a taxiway exit, and I found one here, so we're going to tap on the brakes just a little bit. The P-38 uses a combination of braking and rudder to turn, unlike most World War II aircraft where you would, for example, unlock the tail wheel and then use your differential braking on your left and right rudder pedals to steer the aircraft in any which direction. This aircraft, when you're at higher speeds, you can use the rudder, and that also activates a nose wheel steering, and if you're at a low speed, to get more of a high nose wheel steering, you would use the brakes and the rudder. Very, very useful, especially if you're going around tight corners. So you can see here at this point now, I'm just looking over the cockpit, looking around, and it's a fairly long taxi back. Didn't want to backtrack on the runway in case we had any other aircraft landing. Obviously, we didn't because I was the only one in this flight, but just for realism's sake. I'm going to assume Tower has cleared us to enter the other runway here. I do not remember what numbered runway this is, See if I can see the sign here. I don't know if I looked. No, I did not. But we're bringing it down on the runway here now. We're basically going to be taxiing straight, and we're heading back to where we started, really. Here too, I didn't bring the flaps up. This is because the ground crew were going to be performing a little bit of a walk around in the aircraft after we park. So we left the flaps open just for them to check, see if there's any damage, because the airframe was fairly stressed when we were pulling those maneuvers. Obviously, after they're done their walk around, we'll go ahead and start one of the engines, bring the flaps up, and then shut the aircraft down. That is not recorded in the sim. I just have the engine shut down, and that's that. But that is essentially why I have kept the flaps down. Again, just for realism's sake, I want to make these videos as accurate as possible to operations that I would have done in World War II. And even post-World War II, Korean War, all that stuff. So just bear that in mind when watching these videos. All of this is done as accurately as I can represent personally in the sim. Off center line, but I'm going to keep going straight and we'll correct that. And at this point now we're around the left of where we started, so we're going to keep taxiing straight here after we exit the runway here. We have exited the runway. We're going to keep taxiing straight, pull it around to the right, and then we'll be back on the tarmac that we started on, and that'll conclude our quick flight for today. There will be plenty of videos like this on the channel, and if you have any aircraft that you would like to see me fly, go ahead and let me know down in the comments, and I will be sure to get on top of it. See, now we're pulling it to the right, and you can see the main tarmac where we started. See, we're pulling it a little to the right here now to get more to the middle of the tarmac, just watching the wing to make sure we don't collide with those cars. And we're going to hold the left toe brake while giving it some throttle to line the aircraft up and park. So pushing those throttles forward just a little bit at a time with some taps of the brakes. And we've straightened out now, so we're just going to bring it straight a little bit more. Now we're going to go ahead and hit the brakes. Brakes are tapped. Very first thing we're going to do is put on the parking brake, as you'll see here. And then we'll cut the mixture and the props all the way back, and you can see the engines are going to shut down. That concludes our flight today. I'm going to go ahead and open the canopy. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. And if you didn't, again, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. Let me know what I can do better. Again, this has been a quick P-38 flight. Here you can see I'm doing the shutdown just to let the ground crew get their walk around. Yeah, if you did enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe so that you don't miss any videos just like this one. Next video will obviously be another warbird. Not sure what plane yet, but we'll figure it out. Thank you so much for sticking around for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.